All right, today we are jumping headfirst into the book of Joshua. And let me tell you, this is an absolutely epic story. We're talking war, we're talking faith, and this huge challenge of carving out a nation in a brand new land. And all of this under a leader who's totally new to the job. But really, when you boil it all down, the entire story hinges on this one massive question. How in the world do you replace a legend? I mean, think about it. The shadow of Moses, the guy who parted the sea, the lawgiver, it's just immense. So let's get into it and see how his successor, Joshua, even begins to step up to the plate. So the whole thing kicks off at a moment of absolute national crisis. Picture this, the Israelites are right there on the very edge of the promised land. And suddenly, the only leader they have ever known is gone. And into that silence, into all that uncertainty, God's voice cuts through with these incredibly blunt words. Moses, my servant, is dead. Wow. No sugarcoating it, right? The man who led them out of Egypt? He's gone. This is the kind of moment that could totally shatter a nation. But right then, in that leadership vacuum, comes this absolutely incredible promise to Joshua. See, the whole point was that Moses' real authority didn't come from Moses himself. It came from God's presence with him. And now that exact same divine backing is being handed over directly to Joshua. It's like the ultimate endorsement. So what does he have to do? Well, he's given a super clear three-part mission. First, the practical goal, get across the Jordan River. Second, the spiritual foundation. You have to stick to the law of Moses. And third, the personal command, and you hear this again and again. Be strong and courageous. And man, is he going to need that. And you know it's pretty amazing? The people are totally on board. They pledge their loyalty right then and there, uniting behind this new guy. So, okay, the mandate's been given, the people are committed, the stage is officially set. The invasion is about to begin. All right, so with everyone behind him, Joshua sets his sights on the first major objective, the city of Jericho. And this place is formidable. We're talking a massive, walled fortress. Honestly, on paper, it looks like an impossible first target. But here's where it gets really interesting. Before a single battle even starts, the psychological war is already tipping in their favor. A couple of Israelite spies sneak in and find an unlikely ally, a woman named Rahab. And she tells them straight up, everyone in Jericho knows what's coming and they are absolutely terrified. Their hearts, she says, just melted. So what's the grand military strategy to take this fortress? Well, it's probably one of the weirdest battle plans in all of history. No siege towers, no battering rams, just marching and trumpets and shouting. You can see right away, this isn't about military genius. It's a test of something else entirely, pure, simple obedience. And the result is just astonishing. They follow these bizarre instructions perfectly, and the walls, they literally fall down flat, just collapse. It is a total miraculous victory, and it instantly proves that Joshua's leadership is the real deal, and that the promise he got was legit. Okay, so after the unbelievable high of Jericho, you'd think their momentum is just unstoppable, right? Well, what happens next is a complete shock to the system, a really brutal wake-up call. Let's recap Jericho for a second. They followed the rules 100% and got 100% victory. Not a single casualty. But then they get to the next town, this small place called Ai, and they get totally routed. 36 men are killed, and the army literally runs away. And get this, the text says the Israelites' hearts melted and became as water. That's the exact same phrase used to describe their enemies just a chapter before. What a reversal. So, what on earth went wrong? It all comes down to this concept of the accursed thing. The command from God was crystal clear. All the spoils from Jericho, the gold, the silver, all of it was consecrated to him. Nobody, and I mean nobody, was supposed to take any of it for themselves. And it turns out this massive national defeat can be traced back to just one guy, a man named Ahachan. He secretly broke that rule. And his one private act of disobedience ended up bringing this curse down on the entire community. When he's finally found out, Achan's confession is just brutally honest. It's a three-step process. I saw, I coveted, and I took. It's such a simple human story of greed, right? But it hammers home this central theme of the book. One person's actions can have massive consequences for everybody.
So, with that whole mess sorted out and the nation purified, the conquest is back on. But this next phase is different. It's going to be a huge, sprawling campaign, a major test of both their military strategy and, well, that divine intervention.
Okay, so lesson learned. Israel goes back to Ai, and this time they win. But that victory really gets people's attention. All the kings in the southern part of Canaan suddenly realize, whoa, this isn't a raid, this is a full-blown invasion. So what do? They team up, forming this massive coalition with one goal: wipe the Israelites off the map.
And this showdown leads to probably the most famous, most mind-bending moment in the entire book. They're in the middle of this decisive battle, and Joshua realizes he's running out of daylight to finish the job. So what does he do? He literally commands the sun and the moon to stop in the sky. It's this incredible moment where the laws of nature themselves are put on pause just to secure the victory.
So after completely routing that southern coalition, Joshua pivots and heads north, where he takes on and defeats another alliance of kings. Through this series of really quick, decisive campaigns, the main military power in Canaan is effectively broken. So, for the most part, the fighting is over. But now comes the really hard part, right? The monumental task of taking all this conquered territory and actually turning it into a homeland. It's time to divide up the inheritance. The land is divided up by lot, which was basically a way to make sure the division was fair and guided by God, not politics. But it's about way more than just drawing lines on a map. They're actually building a society from the ground up. You see things like the Levites, the priestly tribe. They don't get a big chunk of farmland. They get cities scattered around, dedicating them to spiritual work. And then you have these new cities of refuge, which were a totally unique system of justice for people who caused an accidental death. And right in the middle of all this logistical planning, you get this absolutely fantastic personal story. Remember Caleb? He and Joshua were the only two original spies who had faith, way back, like 45 years earlier. Well, he steps forward, now 85 years old, and he doesn't ask for some nice, peaceful retirement valley. No way. He points to the mountain highlands, the toughest part of the land still filled with giants, and says, "Give me that mountain." His incredible lifelong faithfulness gets rewarded with the toughest, but also the most honorable piece of the pie. And that brings us to the end of Joshua's life. He's an old man now. He's done everything he was asked to do. He fulfilled his mandate. He led the people into the land. But before he goes, he gathers the entire nation together for one last, incredibly important speech. And he doesn't mince words. He lays out their entire future as a simple, stark choice. Two paths. Path 1, stay faithful to God, and he'll keep fighting for you. Path 2, turn to the local gods, and those very same nations you've been fighting will become snares and traps, and eventually you'll be kicked out of this land entirely. And then he makes it intensely personal. He's not just issuing a command from on high. He challenges them by making his own declaration. It's one of the most powerful lines in the whole story. He basically draws a line in the sand and says, "Choose you this day whom you will serve, but as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." He's not just telling them what to do, he's showing them. And that's where the book ends. Joshua dies, his job is done. But this one massive question is just left hanging in the air. He gave them the leadership, he gave them the land, he laid out the choice. But now that he's gone, that central unifying figure, will the next generation remember? Will they actually keep that promise? And that question right there sets the stage for the next, much, much more chaotic chapter in their story.